just start to think about what he was. I mean, you know, you talk about legends, but I mean, he was a legend. He was a people's champion. Everybody loved that. I think it was the rebel side of Colin, because you never knew what was coming next, be it driving, be it an after-rally celebration, because he was a special guy.
Colin was so synonymous for most people with the world of rallying, the World Rally Championship. And it's not just the people who are close to it. Think of all those people out there who played his computer game, people in far-flung countries around the world that have never got to see a rally car, let alone meet Colin McRae, but to them, he was rallying. And to lose someone of that iconic status is, it's just hard to describe the impact it has on a sport.
I think that Colin made the World Championship in many ways for a lot of people. I mean, I think a lot of people think of Colin when they think of rallying, and that's because not only of what he actually achieved as a rally driver, but all the other things that went with it.
5 left, plus line into right tightens, 3 minus.
I think the rally world is going to be a lot sadder place without him. I mean, we're all going to miss him for different reasons.
He'll be a huge, huge loss to the sport.
Colin McRae, who died recently in a helicopter accident, was one of the greatest rally drivers to ever get behind the wheel. The statistics are impressive. In 1995, he became the first British driver to become world champion. Aged 27, he's still the youngest to achieve that. He finished in the top 3 on another 4 occasions and won 25 WRC events, a number only bettered by Sebastian Loeb, Carlos Sainz and Marcus Gronholm. And on his way to the top, he also collected 2 British championships. But it was his driving style that raised him to another level and made him the fans' favourite. Defence was not his way. He was always on the attack, getting the absolute most out of his car, always on the limit.
I think he had more than just a loyal fan base of rally fans who have always been rally fans. You know, they loved him because he was always the highest on the jumps, he'd be the most sideways through corners, and, you know, it would stir the adrenaline up for me, let alone for the fans out there on the stages.
Okay. Did you like that, jumpy man? How are you on those jumps?
Colin's approach was always flat out, flat out, flat out, and it meant that he was absolutely showing how fast the car could possibly go.
You never knew what was going to happen. You'd think, fantastic, you know, we've got this rally in the bag, and then something would happen out of the ordinary that you wouldn't expect. But the more you work with Colin, you realise that was the guy. He was special, and in a different way to a lot of the other drivers.
People have often said, oh, well, maybe if he just slowed down a little bit, he'd have been world champion I don't know how many times. Well, maybe, but maybe not. You know, nobody will ever know that. But absolutely, what you'll always remember is nobody, you know, in that era, nobody in the same car could get close to the pace of Colin when he put his mind to it.
After a career driving on and beyond the limit in his chosen sport, that he was killed in a helicopter accident which also claimed the life of his son Johnny and 2 friends of the family is cruelly ironic. His last full season in the WRC was with Citroën in 2003. Since then, he'd experimented with other motorsports, including the Le Mans 24-hour and the Dakar Rally. His WRC outings were limited to a return for Citroën in Turkey last year and 2 outings for Skoda in 2005. The last of these was in Australia, where going into the final day he was placed 2nd in what was regarded as an uncompetitive car. However, a memorable podium finish was denied him following a mistake by the service crew. The reaction from the rest of the service park as these events unfolded, they all shared in Colin's disappointment, was a vivid reminder of his standing in the sport. This performance proved that he was always competitive, whatever he was driving and whoever he was driving for. But it was his time with the Subaru and Ford World Rally teams where he forged his reputation. The following is from a profile made in 2002 before his move to Citroën. It contains contributions from his family, friends, colleagues and rivals. A portrait of an immense talent, a unique character and a proud Scotsman.
If you imagine having a massive adrenaline rush and then probably having double that again, I mean, that's what it can be like at times.
He's one of the best drivers in the history of rallying.
I would say without a doubt Colin is the most talented driver that we've seen in Britain.
He gets into car and drives it flat out from the beginning.
He can be first everywhere.
He drives the car as fast as he knows how. Tactics are sort of straight in your face.
He is the quickest driver.
Whenever you go to an event, you know that who can win this event. Colin McRae is always there. He's a fantastic talent.
There's only one thing that really motivates Colin, and that is winning.
You know that you have to do 150%, otherwise you have no chance to win.
Everybody comments on how wild they appear from the outside, but inside it's just a feeling of calm. He's very much in control.
I would always put my money on if it went down to the final stage shootout between him and whoever else in the World Championship.
He's a hero to many spectators, not just in the UK, but across the whole world now.
They say that the buzz of the crowd once we've passed is nothing like anybody else. And of course, that's Colin McRae.
Colin McRae is a phenomenon, the youngest world champion rallying has ever seen, the winner of more world rallies than any other competitor, the highest paid driver in his profession with a lifestyle to match. But life started very differently in Scotland back in 1968.
We just go down across the river and up the other side into a place called Blackwood, which is where I was brought up for the first 5-6 years of my life.
We originally lived about 3 houses down from my father, who was a blacksmith to trade. And when he retired, he had his own wee workshop, and Colin spent a lot of time up there with him, you know, tampering with repairing lawnmowers and doing work for, you know, just bits and pieces of work for farmers and stuff like that.
As a child, inquisitive, into everything, very mechanically minded from very young.
Both my grandpa and my granddad, which was my mother's father, they were all, you know, they were very keen to let us drive. We used to sit on their knees and steer the car up and down the driveway as much as we could. So I think, yeah, it was great, and they obviously loved it as well.
From he was just a toddler, he would go into a car and sit there and pretend he was driving it.
Colin's been interested in speed since ever he was born.
But it wasn't just his grandfathers who encouraged Colin in his need for speed. There was already rallying pedigree close at the hand.
I won the British Championship 5 times from 80 through to 89. He was sort of, well, basically born into the motorsport, and it all went from there. I mean, he started in bikes, he started in schoolboy scrambles bikes, then schoolboy trials.
Bikes were just a stopgap. You couldn't do rallying until you got your driving licence, so we had a lot to do before we were 17.
We're heading to a place called Black Hill. This was the first place that I ever came to ride motorbikes. That's what I wanted to do, was motocross. Although my mother was never very supportive of that idea, so when I turned my attention more to cars, she was a bit more supportive.
He won the Scottish junior motocross championship, and he also won the following year, or 2 years after that, he won the intermediate schoolboy trials championship. So he was good in both trials and motocross.
In fact, Colin wasn't the only one mad on his motors. Lanark was becoming a playground for petrol heads. Amongst them, Robbie Head.
When we weren't actually competing on the trials and then motocross, then we used to go and watch Colin's dad, you know, and he used to sometimes, occasionally, if we were lucky enough, get a run in the rally cars. He was rallying Opel Mantas and Asconas at that time.
As soon as he could get onto four wheels, he was on four wheels and away.
This place here is it's an old mine in a place called Rigside. A school friend of mine, Sandy Mitchell, and I used to come up here with old cars. He had an old Mini. I think I actually had my first roll up here as well. That was the first McRae. Plenty more after that, a lot quicker as well. A lot of these roads around here are all, you can see what they're like. They're pretty good fun. I've visited a few of these grass verges over the years. When I got to sort of 15, 16, I needed to make the next step up, and auto testing was the next thing.
When he was 17, he started rallying, and I didn't have enough money myself to go into it to begin with. And I used to go and help out Colin while he had just started rallying in his Talbot Sunbeam.
In the beginning, it was just all about having fun and not even necessarily thinking about championships or results. It was all about going as quickly as possible from A to B in every stage and just having a good laugh. You know, after that, it began to get a bit more serious.
Fun it might have been, but people were starting to take notice, not least his dad.
Really, the first time I sat beside him in a forest stage, and I thought, well, you know, he's definitely got natural ability. There was no doubt about that.
And I know Jim felt right from way back that he would, you know, he was world championship material.
1987 Scottish Rally. My wife and I decided to go and spectate. It was nice weather, and on this particular stage, there was a certain young driver called McRae. He was just getting everything he possibly could out of that car, using every inch of the road, and incredibly spectacular and fantastically committed, and you know, really very, very good to watch.
You knew straight away that this was somebody that really was going to go somewhere.
In order to succeed at a high level and at the top level in any sport, you have to dominate at the lower levels. And Colin very quickly started doing some fairly big giant killing performances.
We won the Scottish Championship in '88, and I think I drove about 8 different cars and won the championship. So that alone was a great experience at the time.
Whenever he got in a car, it was win or bust, and he had a very competitive sort of instinct from the outset.
It was a fact. Cars didn't survive long with Colin at the wheel, and many wondered whether he would be able to take his success further. He needed a works drive, and the 1990 RAC British Rally gave him a final chance to prove just how good he was. But it wasn't without incident.
I think there was just a bit too much eagerness at the start of the rally. We had a few knocks which knocked us back a gear, and then really got into the groove when I got up into Scotland, and that's where we started setting some top 3 times. You know, beating people like Carlos Sainz, and you know, I think Pentti Ricola was there that year, and all the big names.
Everybody was already talking about the young driver coming, the son of Jim McRae, that he was a good fighter, and I think it was the first time I met Colin.
I think at the beginning we were all impressed when he came, because he was incredibly quick. He was setting unbelievable times.
You know, that was the first time that I had really been able to mix it with these guys. And you know, for somebody my age at the time to be able to do that with the experience I had probably never happened before.
You saw something different in Colin immediately. He had this desire. You could see that the only thing that he was interested in was doing been the fastest.
In fact, I think we were the best Ford in the rally at that point for what was really a semi-private exercise, and it was a bit demoralising when, as you say, we felt that really that might be the end of the road then.
Despondent they might have been, but they had finished 6th, the top place Brits that year, and somebody had been taking note. A phone call was about to change Colin McRae's world.
Just out of the blue, DR phoned my father one night, asked if we had anything sorted for next year, and obviously the answer was no. And he said, you know, would you be interested in driving with ProDrive and drive the Subaru in the British Championship? So I didn't have to think about it for too long.
I take my hat off to David. He phoned up and he says, look, he says, let's do it. And he says, with what you can bring in, he says, I'll cover it. And he says, we'll go for it. And that was it.
David Richards at ProDrive had big plans for the future, and Colin was now a part of them. With Marco Allen and Ari Vatanen driving his Subarus in the World Rally Championship, Richards wanted Colin competing in the 1991 British Championship.
The British Championship, with young Colin on board, we could win fairly easily and raise morale and bring him along at the same time. So it worked for all of us.
The only thing we knew for sure is that he was going to be fast, but we never knew how long it was going to last. We never knew what trick he was going to get up to next.
There was a few ups and downs that year, the first year, but you know, generally we were quicker than everyone else. We won some rallies that year and won the championship.
Having won the British Championship, Colin was on a roll. He had cash, credibility, and he was learning a few lessons from his teammate and boyhood hero.
Thank you, chauffeur. Somebody who is talented, gifted, you can't teach him a lot because he has got that natural thing within himself. So let's face it, the only thing I could probably teach to Colin was that when we went to a really poshy fish restaurant in a Côte d'Azur, south of France, so I told him, Colin, well, this is a place you get, you know, your buttons right and get, you know, you leave your shorts behind now and you don't order hamburger here.
But ProDrive wanted more than a smart dresser with a sophisticated palate.
I mean, I was having great fun driving the car and I was winning the championship, so, you know, what else did I need to do? That was a sort of attitude, but ProDrive were a team that, you know, they were pushing for the best all the time, with the technology, with the PR side of it, with the drivers. They wanted to extract the maximum from everything.
He wasn't that comfortable in doing PR functions. He didn't want to be up there sort of making speeches and doing all those sort of things. Whereas, and strangely enough, Ari was very comfortable doing those things. So we said, all right, well, all we'll do is we'll do this visually. We'll get lots of shots of you sort of riding motorbikes and skiing and jet skiing, all those sort of things. And we did manage to create a real action hero for the public.
And things haven't changed.
While I'm away from rally, I just like to lie back, chill out and take it easy. Ha. Everything we do, it's got speed involved in it somewhere. You just get used to it. It's like a bit of an addiction. You need to have so much of it every day. Obviously, as much as we can, we like to relax and have a bit of fun. And it's sort of one extreme to the other. When you're on an event, it's so intense for that 3 days. It's great just to get away from it and completely relax and not have to think about anything.
Welcome back to our tribute to World Rally legend, the late Colin McRae. This programme is based on a profile filmed with him in 2002.
1992 gave him his second British title and a chance to compete in selected World Championship events. Colin took the bull by the horns.
Finland 92 is indelibly printed in my mind, and from the minute I got off the plane at Tivesco to be greeted by the team who mentioned that Colin had already rolled the car once in testing and they were beating it out in a panel beating shop round the corner.
Even when they pushed it into scrutineering, we couldn't push on the body panels because the paint was still wet, so they got it all straightened out. We started the rally, and then on the first day of the rally we had a fairly major accident, probably one of the biggest ones I've had, and got away with it. sort of rolled about 7 times in through all the tree stumps, and it ended up on its wheels. And you know, you would normally just have got out because you would have said the car was destroyed.
I mean, it felt like a fairly heavy accident, but put it in reverse and started up, and it came back on the road.
It wasn't really looking like a Subaru anymore, but it was still going very well. And then the next day we had another off, and then rolled through a pile of trees, broke a tree in half. Got it repaired, and we had to do, I think, the last 2 stages of the day with the welding goggles on to keep the midges out our eyes.
By the 3rd day, I was there with a sledgehammer knocking out the dents myself.
The way that we were received by the people in Finland who don't normally take to foreign drivers, the way we were received, it was incredible, and I think that helped, you know, immeasurably with Colin's career.
It was like that with Colin all the way down the line, but he, you know, when somebody gives their all and is so competitive, he does rally support around him.
The next year saw Colin promoted to Subaru's World Championship team. The big time had arrived, but there were a few hiccups before any wins.
We'll be coming to the emergency service point. We've taken a rear wheel off. Over.
And Colin then was going through that frustration of thinking, you know, what do I have to do? You know, I'm fast all the time. You know, I keep looking like I'm going to win a rally. When is it going to come? And it finally came together in New Zealand.
Obviously, the end of the rally, once we got there, it was almost an anticlimax because everybody had been waiting for so long for this victory in the team, and when it came, we didn't really know how to deal with it. But after we'd settled down, you know, after a few minutes, yeah, we had a good party.
New Zealand wasn't just any WRC win. It was Subaru's first. The first for a Brit since Roger Clark's 1976 RAC victory, and the first win for a Briton outside of the UK. Colin's fame was spreading, and so was his Subaru's bodywork. By 1994, the press had renamed him Colin McCrash.
It was fair enough at the time. I certainly did crash quite a lot of cars, but that was the thing that everybody loved as well. You know, people love to see somebody trying hard, and if they have an accident, they have an accident.
It wasn't all positives in those days, you know. We had a fair share of incidents, and Colin had more than his fair share of crashes and so on. But that was the thing that, you know, and it's true, to be fair, with most young drivers, the one thing you know is that they are going to go out and they are going to absolutely do their best. And in Colin's case, it wasn't just his best, it was flat out, it was on the limit. And as I say, you knew that that's what the car can do.
You know, I was prepared to go a gear higher into every corner to beat someone. And you know, generally you would get away with it. But you can only get away with it for so long when you sort of drive with that attitude.
Well, at the beginning, I think he was crashing quite a lot. He was obviously pushing very hard.
Somebody who drives 110%, you can always bring them back 10%. But somebody who can get to 90, it's very difficult getting from 90 to 100%. And I think David knew that as well.
Oh, it was a very expensive period, and there were many occasions when Colin and I were at odds with each other because I was trying to persuade him to stay on the road and he just wanted to drive as fast as he could.
But Colin's flat-out style paid off at the end of the year when he beat his new teammate Carlos Sainz and took victory in the 1994 RAC, the first home winner since Roger Clark 18 years before. 1995. And there were only 8 events in the championship. By mid-season, Colin was finally stringing points and wins together. And with only 2 events to go, it was close. There was a chance he could take his first world title.
It was a very up and down season for everyone. Nobody was having a good, clean run.
And then, of course, Carlos fell off a mountain bike and damaged his shoulder, which was put him out of action for a couple of events. Colin took full advantage of that, scored some more wins. And when we went into Catalonia, it was fairly finely balanced. But at this point in time, Subaru were well on target for winning the manufacturer's title, and that was not something I was going to give up easily.
Then it left Carlos and I to have a battle between us right up until the last day. Obviously, almost equal in the championship with 2 rallies to go, with 1 rally to go. And then DR putting team orders on us in the last morning, which didn't go down very well at all.
I can remember sitting back with Colin and his father discussing and saying, look here, I know you're only a handful of seconds behind, but we're going to have to call this a day and you're going to have to sort of cruise into second place. But, You know, I already anticipated there might be problems.
You must remember that the decisions were taken at the end of the second leg, and at that time I was in front of Colin. That was the reason why I was nominated for win.
The real issue for me was that we had to have some discipline in the team because Carlos didn't believe we could control Colin.
That continued right through the last day. We didn't actually stop when we were supposed to. We won the rally. DR had a bit of another sense of humour failure over that one.
Yes, Colin disobeyed the team orders, went on to sort of almost get across the finish line, and we had a little discussion in the high street in Lorette de Mar.
You know, it was for getting close to boiling point.
And DR got mad. And he said, no way, you have to listen to me. So there was no other choice.
And if we had checked in time, we would have won the rally, and that was it. The result was final. And that's not what he wanted. And at the end of the day, he's the boss. Yeah, it got to a bit of a threat like that. You know, I had to either, if I won that rally, it would be the last rally I won, sort of thing. So sense prevailed in the end, I suppose, or the thought of not having a drive in the future made me do the thing that he wanted me to do, and that was to check in late and lose the rally to Carlos.
I think that just gave Colin the extra urge on the RAC to say, right, I'm going to bloody win this World Championship.
Right from Cataluna, obviously that was the attitude I had. You know, I should be going into the RAC leading the championship, and I wasn't. And I was sure as hell I was going to do my best to win it, and I didn't ever doubt it in my mind. It was just a very blinkered approach to winning the rally, and it didn't matter what was happening around about me.
There may not have been doubts in Colin's mind, but the 1995 RAC wasn't a stroll in the park. With problems solved, there was just a World Championship to win.
I was at the end of the last stage, and I mean, it was probably the longest stage in the world. It felt like it, but whenever we saw him coming through, and you know, we knew then that he was world champion.
Because it all happened so quickly, it just takes a long time to sink in. But it was a great feeling that you can't really describe to anyone. You've got to be there and do it.
Yes, spot on. That'll do for me, eh?
Having won the title myself back in '81 with Ari, I have to say that seeing Colin win for our team and for himself was, to me, a more important moment than anything that had gone before. I was just so pleased for him.
Right cheers for the new World Champion!
The thing that stands out is that reception at the finish. It was like a football match. You know, the cheering, you know, the champagne celebration was probably, I've never seen anything like it before or since.
I think if you get to the top of any sport or even any job, then the satisfaction's there, and not just for Colin, for the whole family. I think probably more for my father, to work so hard with his drive, and then to work so hard with Colin and to get to the top of the sport. It was great for everybody.
It was a very emotional time. It was. I can still get choked when I think about it. It was just absolutely incredible.
It's then you think, you know, the world is a big place, and he's world champion. So.
British World Rally Champion is something that no one would believe could have happened, and not just the family. Obviously, they gave me great support right from the very beginning, but for everyone, you know, the team of mechanics I had in the beginning, right through all the pro drive guys in the beginning, everybody that was involved. It's a huge team effort, and you know, everybody deserves credit when a championship won.
You know, you asked me 3 or 4 great moments in my life, I would say that was one of them.
Colin was just 27, the youngest World Rally Champion ever, the first British World Rally Champion, and the accolades kept coming, not least an MBE from the Queen. Plus, there was the odd fun day out.
He was just instantly quick, and his chosen career is rallying, but had he taken up motor racing, I'm quite certain he would have been world champion in Grand Prix racing, just like he has been in rallying.
Championship parting was also a natural talent.
You know, what you've achieved in the beginning was the World Championship, but then you have to have all these other things piled on top of you. It's something quite special.
So with number 1 in his car, 1996 should just have been a matter of hanging on to the world title, shouldn't it?
Year after he had a very good chance of winning I was quite sure he was going to win that year, but somehow something went wrong, and You know, winning a championship is not easy, and sometimes you need to be very lucky.
In a way, everybody expects you to do it again straight away, and it's not always that easy.
It's very hard to raise your game again a second time round. The sort of the effort that goes into the euphoria, the whole change of circumstances around you. So, you know, whoever you were, you find that a difficult task. And the next year was a difficult year for us.
It wasn't just 96 that proved difficult. One man was to be Colin's nemesis over the next 4 years.
Still, even with the experience, it seems to be not so easy like it's been for him. It's been when everything working well, it works well. Everything is so easy, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it's nearly impossible.
And 6-3. And 6-3.
McRae was living up to his name. Something had to change, and on David Richards' suggestion, Derek Ringer was replaced. A new face appeared in the co-driver's seat.
Perhaps David saw me as somebody who's come off the back of numerous other professional drivers and spending 4 years with probably one of the most level-headed and experienced guys in the championship, as in Ewa Kankinen at that time, and felt that some of that would rub off onto Colin.
I went to see him to see if I thought it could work out, and it looked good. So it all went from there, and he started in '97.
Colin's professional life had been with ProDrive and Subaru from the start, but much like his gear shifting, things were about to change.
I felt it was the right time in my career to have a new challenge, and Ford provided me with that.
We were in a phase with Inside Ford Motorsport at the time where we just designed the new Focus. We were entering it in competition for the first time in 1999, and we wanted to get off to a great start. New car, new driver lineup, and really Colin was the best guy for the job at the time.
I felt a vital ingredient, certainly from my side, was to have the fastest driver at the time, to be able to work with the team and develop the car.
Now there was just a matter of money.
If you get to the level that you want to get to, which is world-class level, then you do find that all of a sudden there is a fairly big jump in fee, and that's what happened.
We felt that by paying the sort of money that we paid for Colin, we were in a sense creating a media story or creating a media buzz. Not an irresponsible one, but one that we genuinely felt was the right thing. And I think it had the desired effect.
It certainly did. It also meant Colin McRae, with his £6.5 million deal, was the highest paid rally driver ever. So, Monte Carlo, 1999, and the Focus's debut.
It was a sort of dream debut for the car. It was brilliant. So then to lose the third place after that was fairly disappointing.
Ford had been under the impression that a certain water pump was within the FIA's guidelines. It wasn't. The Focus was disqualified after finishing third, and Colin told the press what he thought of the Ford team.
We have a problem, but I really don't know all the details, so it's up to the Ford management and the FIA to rectify.
So the relationship was tried straight away in the beginning, but they knew they had a driver that was fully committed to winning the championship and absolutely wanted to do that, and would do anything to do that.
Looking back, it was a difficult time, but on the other hand, I'm a great believer in the fact that all great drivers have to criticise their team from time to time. Colin's no different. Look at Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna was a great motivator in the sense that he knew what he wanted from the car, and he knew that he could get the best from the car by driving the people around him, driving his engineers, driving his technicians, and to a degree being critical of the team. And Colin's no different, and that's why he is the driver he is, and hopefully why we're the team we are.
But the next year wasn't kind to Colin or Ford. He achieved another first. 12 did not finishes from 13 starts. But by the end of 2000, the Focus was finally performing, and things seemed to be looking up. After a couple of wins, Colin was chasing a podium in Corsica.
I still don't know exactly what happened.
I read the notes as normal. We came into this third gear corner, and I thought, we're going too quick.
And I mean, all you can do in that situation is sort of scrub as much speed off as you can and attempt to go around the corner, or you're definitely going to go off on the outside.
Turned in a bit early, clipped a rock face on the inside.
And flipped the car over, which went straight through, I think, the only gap in the wall.
Sort of you land and wait for all the impacts, settle down, and they're right here, upside down in your belts. And so I undid my belts. And you're always very disorientated when you're in that situation because everything's completely wrong, and you basically put yourself onto the roof.
I'd made the decision sort of a day after Corsica that I would get back in the car.
After an operation, the San Remo rally was only 10 days away, and Colin still had a chance to win the championship. Even with a metal plate holding his head together, he was determined to compete in Italy.
It was difficult. I think, of course, we did the recce, didn't speak about it, which is the best way, but we got to the situation where really we had to do the first stage. And I think once we've done the first stage, we competed, he'd driven, and it was a case of a big sigh. Yes, we're okay. We can still do it. It's fine. And to be honest, the rest of the event went very well. And I think shows the strength of the character to be able to go out there and fight to score 1 point at the end of it.
I mean, it was quite a tough point. I mean, even I underestimated how hard it was going to be.
That point was not enough. A new champion was crowned. 2000 was Marcus Gronholm's year.
The new world champion, Marcus Gronholm.
A new year, and Monte Carlo held no good omens. 2001 was another frustrating start.
Into 6 left, 50, 6 crest.
But by mid-season there was a fight on. Colin McRae versus Richard Burns, a battle of the Brits. Colin took first blood in Argentina and completed a hat-trick of wins.
I'm getting used to this. Well done.
But by the end of the year, Burns was only 2 points adrift. It came down to Rally GB.
Basically, it was whoever won the rally was going to win the championship. And, you know, for rally fans all over the world, that was a great situation.
Colin is a trier. I mean, he knew what he had to do on that event.
There are times when you can totally predict when Colin's going to make a mistake. When you're driving it absolutely at your limit and you're just getting away with things, and if someone is taking a few seconds off you, it means that they're on the limit as well, or over the limit.
5 left plus, cut.
I knew that the car was going to go deeper into the apex than what I had wanted it to. But, you know, you make that split-second decision to let it go, or you try and correct it, and there was space and time to correct it. But I made the decision just to go with the line the car was going to take.
Into 6.
Unfortunately, in this case, it was probably 10 miles an hour too quick, probably 12 inches too much into the right, hit a bank, and that was it.
I knew at the time that the impacts that we were taking, the car wasn't going to drive again. So, you know, I knew even before the accident had ended that was the championship gone.
I can honestly say that the first thought I had when I passed him was, is he okay? Because it looked like an absolutely massive accident. But very quickly, within the next like half a kilometre, I'd made a mistake myself because I was just thinking, oh my God, all I've got to do really is get around here now and I'm going to be world champion. And it's quite something to take in when you're trying to keep that car on the road as well.
Whilst Burns celebrated, others paused for thought.
I think to have seen Colin McRae win the World Championship in a Ford was the thing that not only I wanted, and not only that Colin wanted, but the whole company wanted, and I would suggest that the vast majority of rally fans wanted as well. So yes, it was a huge disappointment, but you know, the person who probably felt it most was the guy driving the car.
2002 sees Colin challenging for the title again, but already there have been setbacks. The worst being on the treacherous roads of Corsica, yet again.
6 left, 50, 3 left plus tightens, cut ruts.
Colin's the guy who's pressing the pedals and turning the steering wheel. And in this case, just got a little bit mud on the tyres, got a little bit, probably a few inches too much out on the slippy tarmac and just slid into a tree. You know, unfortunately for Colin, I mean, it was him who was injured again, and I would say very, very lucky there to get out with just a damaged finger, because, I mean, it could have been something far, far worse.
His little finger was shattered. The next round in Catalunya seemed unlikely.
The sort of medical advice was, you can't do the rally. And the surgeon really was quite adamant, you know, if you do it, you might damage the finger again, and if you damage the finger again, then the only option might be to amputate it. And I said, well, I'm quite prepared to take that chance.
You know, it's only my finger, he said, you know. And he said, even if I do have to get it off, I mean, I can do that, and I've been told that it'll definitely be okay if, you know. And I said, but you don't want to lose your finger if there's any chance of keeping it. No, but look, he said, I have to do the rally.
If I was to say to him, if you get in that car, you know, that is it, he would go and get himself another physio. I'm sure of that.
As ever, he competed, and the pinky survived.
I was quite happy with my wee finger, and I still am. It's still here, and it works almost properly.
Victories at both Acropolis and Safari have made 2002 a memorable year. It gives Colin 25 WRC victories, the most ever. Another record broken. Colin loves winning, but there are certain events that he looks forward to more than others in the World Rally Championship.
My favourite two rallies there always has been. Sweden's one for sure. It's just an extreme event, totally different to the rest. It's great fun to drive on in the snow and ice. It's very forgiving. For one, you can relax a bit if you make a bit of a mistake. You generally get away with it. The other one's Safari, because again, an extreme event, more of an endurance event where you've really got to drive to the pace that you feel the car will survive and then that you can survive the rally for. And it's just a different type of challenge. I think certainly the ones that challenge me the most are Finland. You know, it's the toughest rally in the championship to win. It always has been, it always will be, I'm sure. Just because the roads are so specialised. Another event with very good roads is New Zealand Rally. So these two would be my favourite roads in the championship.
He's also serious about having fun outside rallying. And I've met Colin in the ski resort in Switzerland, and we did a lot of skiing together, and he enjoys water skiing and bike riding and go-karting and lots of, how would I say, adrenaline stuff. That's what he does most, and he is very relaxed outside rallying.
Colin had this extraordinary competitive instinct in everything he did. He got on a jet ski down at the beach. If he rode a motorbike, everything he went for in his wonderfully understated way. There was no sort of, there was none of the razzmatazz about it. It was just basically, just get on and do it.
He just absolutely adored anything with wheels and an engine, and if it was anything to do with speed as well, that was all the more important, because that was him. He just loved everything.
He still loved driving. It didn't matter what it was. I think he just got a tremendous thrill out of driving, and that is something that everybody will miss.
Colin lived his life to the full and lived it at full speed. It was always hoped that one day we would once again see Colin doing what he did better than anyone, driving a rally car. Sadly, that will never happen. But he will not be forgotten, as he is one of a select band of drivers that the champions of today and the future will always be compared to.
It was never any half measures. It was drive hard, work hard and party hard, and that was Colin McRae. He'd always be the most spectacular, the most sideways, which has made him the people's favourite.
Colin was to the WRC what Valentino Rossi probably is to MotoGP, and what Ayrton Senna perhaps was to Formula One in his time, and so on. You know, some names that have kind of actually added something to the sport, and I think that's Colin for rallying.
He created this incredible following. First of all in the UK, but then you could see wherever you went, Italy, Portugal, wherever he went, he had this tremendous following. And I don't really think there'll be there'll be anybody else ever be able to do, to take the sport to such a different, wide audience of people. And sadly, we've lost that.
Straight 850. Did you like that, How are you on those jumps?